Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to you this morning. We're going to be starting very shortly. I'd request you to kindly please take your seats, and a polite reminder to all of you to please keep your mobile phones on silent. The esteemed dignitaries for the panel discussion are going to be arriving any moment from now, and therefore I'd request you to kindly be seated now. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And may I request you and remind you to please keep your mobile phones on the silent mode so that there are no interruptions through the course of the panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I urge you to please take your seats. We're awaiting the arrival of the esteemed dignitaries for the panel discussion, which is to start very shortly. May we also contribute to the flow of the program by keeping our mobile phones on silent. Just a polite reminder to every one of you. A very warm welcome to all of you once again. And I'd request you to kindly be seated at this point. The dignitaries will arrive once the house is in order, and therefore I request you to please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, may I request you to kindly take your seats. Please be seated. The proceedings of the day will start very shortly, and therefore I urge you to please take your seats. Again, a polite reminder to all of you to kindly keep your mobile phones in the silent mode. आप सभी से अनुरोध किया जाता है कि आप अपना अपना स्थान ग्रहण करें. Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome and good morning to all of you. We're going to be starting with the proceedings of the day now. May I request you to please help me extend a very warm welcome to the esteemed dignitaries joining us on the dais in the form of a huge round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a wonderful conference over the last 2 days, and today is about taking back key takeaways and pleasant memories. But having said that, we do have a long agenda to finish for the day, which comprises Tsunami Awareness Day commemoration, closing plenary and closing ceremony. There will also be a film festival awards ceremony as part of the closing ceremony, and then we shall conclude the conference with the press conference. India is proud to commemorate the first ever World Tsunami Awareness Day. It is indeed a matter of great privilege for our country. At this juncture, I would like to take you through a short audio visual on the Indian Ocean Wave 16 exercises that were conducted in India and Seychelles. Take a look, ladies and gentlemen.
Tsunami around the Indian Ocean had been a challenge for us, and we have seen the devastation it had caused to us. This simulation exercise is primarily to evaluate ourselves how prepared we are, so that we can disseminate information to the people who are vulnerable. We could save hundreds of thousands of people's lives due to system in place.
Early warning system is the best way to communicate the peoples. By this way, the people are getting awareness.
Officers and community and has to do all the evacuation and everything. So I would say कि 100% these mock drills are helping us a lot.
People in this particular village and in almost all the villages along the coastline of our state are highly motivated. They are interested to take part in the drill. They are also motivated to train themselves, build their own capacity to provide search and rescue, first aid and other activities related to disaster management. And we are sure this type of activity will definitely strengthen our resolve and prepare the community to face disaster in a far better way.
आम से आम गाँव किसी आम नाला सैकेल गाड़ी फाड़ी किसी नाला एवं सब हबार आम खबर पाऊँ खबर पाइले आम स्वामी कि आम छाड़ू समुद्र को.
We need different agencies like the health people, fire brigade and everything. Now, they also need to be at par because without them we cannot do anything. See? So, preparedness is one, but readiness, are we ready to deal with the situation fast and possible? This we need to work very hard on that.
We've done some sensitivity studies for Seychelles, and as you move earthquake sources further south along the Sumatra Trench, the worst possible place for a tsunami for Seychelles is actually where it happened in 2004.
We have received a tsunami warning, so we've just sent out all the SMSs. At the same time, those that we can call, we call.
We are going to tell them to evacuate and to go to the car park.
Your attention, please.
We have to keep going forward. Protecting an island is a challenge. Apart from protecting from natural hazards and everything, we have to protect our way of life and a quality of life.
So disaster risk reduction is the theme. Disaster, whenever it strikes, knows no boundary. So it has to be global effort. It is not one country's problem. It is region-wise and global-wise. We have to come together.
building resilience of communities to tsunami hazards is crucial. And as we mark the first edition of the World Tsunami Awareness Day, I now request Special Representative of the Secretary General of United Nations, Mr. Robert Glasser, to take over the proceedings of the panel discussion on commemoration of World Tsunami Awareness Day. Sir, please.
Good morning, everyone. I would, on behalf of UNISDR, I'd like to express our warm welcome to you all on this first World Tsunami Awareness Day commemoration. Tsunamis, as you know, are quite rare, but they can be extremely deadly, as we saw in 2004 when the Indian Ocean tsunami took over 220,000 lives. In fact, tsunamis are the most deadly of all natural hazards. Tsunamis also know no borders, making internationally designated 5 November as World Tsunami Awareness Day and called on countries around the globe to mark it. Therefore, today, as we mark the first World Tsunami Awareness Day for the first time ever, this is a great pleasure and honor for us to mark this occasion on the closing day of the Asia Ministerial Conference for Disaster Risk Reduction. 5th November is actually a date chosen as a reference to the famous story Iamura no He in Japan, where many lives were saved due to the proactive actions for early warning for tsunami. I actually would encourage you to speak with our colleagues from Japan who are here today about that remarkable story, which has so much multi-level meaning that's relevant to tsunami awareness activities even to this day. There was an earthquake off the coast of southwest Japan. This was on the 5th of November in 1854, which triggered an enormous tsunami that left 15,000 homes damaged or completely destroyed. But, remarkably, very few lives were lost. There was a local leader by the name of Hamaguchi Goryo in the village of Hiromura who felt the initial earthquake and noticed the telltale signs such as the lowering of the tide and a rapid decrease in the level of water in his well. And his traditional knowledge, as well as his selflessness and sense of humanity, inspired him to set fire to his sheaves, the sheaves from his rice crop, which were not invaluable, that was an asset, and signal the villagers below that there was a fire, essentially. And this act caused the villagers to race up the hill to put out the fire. And it was as a consequence of that that as the tsunami rolled in, those villagers were saved. So this farmer destroyed his own assets, knowing that the villagers would respond to help put out a fire, and that's how he saved their lives. This highlights that situational awareness, knowledge, and living memory are all powerful elements of disaster risk reduction. They are nowhere more necessary than along coastlines of many countries around the world. And of course, it's along coasts where most of the world's populations have settled. And it's where they are most exposed, of course, to the risk of a tsunami. The UN General Assembly has tasked the UN Office of Disaster Risk Reduction with facilitating the observance of World Tsunami Awareness Day in collaboration with the rest of the United Nations systems and partners around the world. Although it's a UN decision, I should just point out that the government of Japan played an absolutely essential role in that resolution of the General Assembly that we're now observing today. Our theme of this first World Tsunami Awareness Day is Live to Tell, to promote effective education and evacuation drills. We're aligning the themes and trying to make synergy among the advocacy campaigns which we're conducting for disaster risk reduction, including International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, 13 October, World Tsunami Awareness Day, 5 November, and Sasakawa Award for DRR with this theme of Live to Tell. And the objective, of course, is to reduce global disaster mortality, which is, of course, target 1 of the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. Today in this ceremony, we have a very special panel discussion with 5 quite distinguished panelists who will share their experiences, lessons learned, messages, recommendations for tsunami risk reduction and preparedness. I'd like to take a moment to introduce them to you just briefly, although I know throughout the course of the meetings here, some of these panelists are quite familiar to you. The first, of course, is His Excellency Mr. Kiren Rijiju, who is the Minister of State for Home Affairs of the Government of India and a UNISDR DRR champion. The second is His Excellency Mr. Kenji Hiramatsu, who is the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Japan to India. The third is Ms. Regina Edwina Prosper. She is Training, Education, Awareness, Information, and Communication Officer from the Division of Risk and Disaster Management of the Government of Seychelles. Next, immediately to my left, is Vladimir Ryabinin. Excuse me. You knew that would happen? Yes, we spoke about this earlier. Vladimir is the Executive Secretary of the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, IOC, and Assistant Director General of UNESCO. And finally, Dr. Laura Kong, who is the Director of the International Tsunami Information Center, ITIC, which is a UNESCO, IOC, NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration partnership. So we've seen the video which highlighted some of the challenges and issues that we're addressing today. What I propose to do is to invite each of the honorable speakers in turn to share some reflections with us on tsunami awareness and preparedness, including what has changed since that landmark Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004 in terms of tsunami awareness and preparedness. And I will invite the speakers to present in the order in which they were I introduced them to you as well. So with that in mind, and without any further ado, I'd like to invite His Excellency Mr. Kiren Rijiju for his observations. Excellency.
Thank you so much, Robert Glasser, Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General. Your Excellency Kenji Hiramatsu, the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Japan to India. Mrs. Regina Prosper from the Division of Risk and Disaster Management, Government of Seychelles. Mr. Vladimir Ryabinin, Executive Secretary of the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission and Assistant Director General of UNESCO. Mrs. Laura Kong, Director, International Tsunami Information Center, NOAA, IRC, United States. Ladies and gentlemen, the scientists and the expert agree that about 10 major tsunamis occur every century. Based on this historical data, about 76% of the world's major tsunamis have occurred in Pacific Ocean and its marginal seas, around 10% in Mediterranean Sea, 11% in Atlantic Ocean, around 3% in Indian Ocean. In less active geological oceans like Atlantic, Indian or Mediterranean oceans, tsunamis can cause significant damage and death toll. In the recent history, Japan is the most frequent sufferer of tsunami in the whole of the world. Tsunamis, though quite infrequent, but very significant natural hazards that can cause great destruction and loss of life within minutes on shore, near and far. Japan has the longest recorded history and high frequency of tsunamis we have witnessed. But the Indian Ocean tsunami of December 2004 caused due to Great Sumatra earthquake was the most devastating tsunami ever, causing unprecedented loss of life and damage to property in Indian Ocean rim countries. While the loss of property was enormous, the most devastating fact was that it resulted in around 230,000 fatalities, 230,000 30,000 as we say in India. In India, it claimed 10,749 lives according to the official estimates. We were caught unaware and unguarded, and the tragedy was one of the worst. Notwithstanding this, the government of India rose to the challenge, and the tsunami of 2004 proved to be a watershed in the history of disaster management in India. Not only we overcame the crisis and ensured relief, rehabilitation and reconstruction along with livelihood generation to the affected communities within a short span of time, but also we put in place the legislative provisions, institutional mechanisms, technological interventions for dealing with different types of disasters, including tsunami. The Disaster Management Act, enacted in 2005, has provided a legislative framework in national, state and district level for effective disaster management, including every facet of preparedness, response, capacity building and mitigation. India has become one of the first countries to frame the National Disaster Management Plan 2016, of course in line with the goals of Sendai framework. These plans provide clear-cut standard operating procedures to respond to various natural disasters situations, including tsunami. On the front, technological interventions and building our capabilities for disaster preparedness and enhancing disaster risk reduction, we are investing into science and technology, especially the weather forecasting, early warning systems, knowledge sharing networks, meteorological services, etc. The Government of India has set up Indian National Center for Oceanic Information Services for dealing with tsunami. INCOIS has prepared multi-hazard vulnerability maps to identify the coastal areas under threat. The National Tsunami Early Warning System in INCOIS was set up in 2005 to provide early warnings to any possible tsunami. The warning center is capable of issuing tsunami bulletins in less than 10 minutes after any major earthquake in the Indian Ocean, and is providing tsunami early warnings and advisory services to 28 other countries on the Indian Ocean rim. The center is also organizing national and international workshops, training sessions and seminars to create awareness about tsunamis to general public, school children and disaster management communities. The recent tsunami mock drill, Indian Ocean Wave 2016, was conducted on September 7 to 8, 2016 by INCOIS, is a great example of implementation of the plan to build tsunami resilient community. The main objective was to test the efficiency of the communication links, exercising the standard operating procedures of the emergency services and the evaluation of the readiness to handle the emergency situation. I'm happy to note that large number of people from coastal areas participated in that exercise. To raise awareness about dangers of tsunami among people, November 5 has been designated as UN World Tsunami Awareness Day to coincide with the annual anniversary of the 1854 Inamura no-hi, or Fire of Inamura event. On November 5 of that year, a Japanese villager, through his quick action, saved countless lives when he set fire to ships of rice, thus warning people of the imminent danger of a tsunami. Role of the World Tsunami Awareness Day is critical because knowledge and awareness to tsunami risk will lead to effective evacuation behavior which can save lives. This is directly related to the target 1 of the Sendai framework, reducing global disaster mortality. On this important day of the first World Tsunami Awareness Day, I, as the champion of the disaster risk reduction in Asia, wish to call all the countries in Asia to promote public tsunami awareness and education for the people of coastal population to enhance community resilience through a facilitated education and outreach program. We cannot prevent tsunami, but we can control the damages that can be inflicted by tsunami. Therefore, I would like to urge all the countries to commemorate this first World Tsunami Awareness Day by taking a pledge to sensitize local self-governments, communities, and vulnerable people about the risk of tsunami. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for those for your comments and also the proposal for the pledge, which is so important at local level, the front lines of response and exposure to tsunami risk. Excellency, maybe just a quick question, if I can. You mentioned in your comments the early warning system that is being shared with 28 countries. I wonder if you could say a bit more about the government's engagement regionally. Of course, hosting this meeting is an element of that regional leadership, but with respect to tsunami, is there more you can say about the regional level engagement?
Actually, see, as I stated, India is not a country which has faced frequently of these tsunami problems. So 2004 was the watershed, and thereafter we are engaging, and it was a learning process. And of course, we have done so much on this regard, but I personally feel that we need to do much more. The last, I'm told, the exercise which we conducted was very effective, and thereby we want to integrate with the BIMSTEC country, the rims of Bay of Bengal, and then of course the largest Indian Ocean, and towards the west side is the Arabian Sea. So we would like to have more on this, and here we would like to invite the assistance of the UNISDR to play a coordinating role, because as I said, it's not one country specific thing. It's an issue which should be dealt by all the countries around the rims of a sea or an ocean. So Japan has been a leading country in providing all kinds of assistance, informations, and technical guidance, with sharing their experiences. But for that, we need to do much more. But I must comment that within this short period of time, India has been quite proactive, and we have come a long way, although we need much more coordination on that.
Thank you, Excellency.
माफ कीजिएगा, कुछ हिंदी में बोला जाए, समझ में नहीं आता. हम भी आए हैं, कुछ हिंदी में भी 2 मिनट उसका सार बताया जाए.
Okay, I don't know what that is. No.
हिंदी नहीं हो पाएगी.
Sorry.
She is requesting that if there can be possible Hindi translation.
किसी हिंदी ट्रांसलेशन को रखना चाहिए. कुछ समझ में नहीं आता, 2 मिनट बताया जाए.
May I interrupt you a moment, please? We will have an opportunity for some questions from the audience after we've heard from the panelists. So if you wouldn't mind waiting for that, that would be great. Thank you very much. So His Excellency mentioned Japan's role, leadership role, in this area of tsunami risk reduction. With that in mind, let me invite our second speaker to provide his reflections, His Excellency Mr. Kenji Hiramatsu. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Robert Grasser. Mr. Robert Grasser, Special Representative of the Secretary General for Disaster Risk Reduction, Mr. Kiren Rijiju, Minister of State for Home Affairs, Government of India, Ms. Regina Prosper, Division of Risk Disaster Management, Government of Seychelles, Mr. Vladimir Ryabinin, Executive Secretary of the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission and Assistant Director General of UNESCO, Ms. Laura Kohn, Director, International Tsunami Information Center, NOAA-IRC, USA. Distinguished guests from countries and various organizations from around the world, first of all, I'd like to thank you for attending this event. Japan, as well as the Asian countries, has experienced many disasters due to geographical and meteorological factors. Japan is very prone to earthquake and tsunami. International efforts toward the mainstreaming of disaster risk reduction have been steadily progressing. For example, the Sendai Framework for DRR was adopted last year, and the disaster reduction has been incorporated into 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, recognizing that disaster risk reduction is an important element of development. Japan is taking a leading role to promoting the idea of disaster risk reduction and mainstreaming disaster risk reduction in many international fora. For example, 2030 Development Agenda, Japan has made a tremendous effort that this will be incorporated in this agenda. So we are proud of that. As a follow-up of measures of these framework, World Tsunami Awareness Day on November 5th was established, the United Nations General Assembly, in December last year, with cooperation from your countries. We are very grateful to your continued cooperation. In Japan, political leaders have taken a leading role to promote this idea to make it happen. The designation November 5th as World Tsunami Awareness Day is based on Japan's famous anecdote of Inamura no Hi, burning of harvest rice sheaves. My previous speakers have already spoken about that. I am very happy to know that this anecdote is now spreading around the world, not only in Japan. This is a kind of a textbook story in Japan. So many people in Japan know that. But I hope that many people in this room, but also around the world, have awareness of this important anecdote. So I don't want to go into detail about that, but 3 important lessons can be learned from this anecdote of Inamura no Hi. One is the importance of early warning. The fact that he has put a fire on the sheaves is that how to let them know in a very early stage, so importance of early warning. Another aspect is the use of a traditional indigenous local knowledge. He obviously knows about the experience of tsunami before that, because he knows what happened a long time ago. Third is the importance of investing in DRI and build back better. One anecdote of this person is not only putting the fire, but also he has a tremendous effort to build back the infrastructure again. So he has spent many years together with the local people how to make this village more resilient. So these 3 lessons we have to learn from this Inamura no Hi anecdote. As you may be aware, tsunami are rare phenomena compared to other kinds of disasters. But once they take place, they cause tremendous damage, both in terms of loss of human lives and destruction of property. I like to emphasize that we can minimize this damage by ensuring that communities are well aware of the risk of tsunami occurring after major earthquakes have struck. The Great East Japan earthquake and resulting tsunami on March 11, 2011, over 15,000 people with about 3,000 people still unaccounted for. There were very tragic incidents that occurred that day. If more people had had a tsunami risk knowledge, many lives could have been saved. By raising the tsunami awareness through the informative events of World Tsunami Awareness Day, we can mitigate devastating damage caused by tsunamis. In order to protect the precious lives of people from natural disasters such as tsunami, prior investment for disaster risk reduction is important. But the most important thing is people's concerted efforts through increased awareness of the danger posed by tsunamis and the importance of precautionary measures. For example, in Japan, people conduct evacuation drills every day under the initiatives of the government and communities. In order to share Japan's tsunami disaster reduction efforts with children in other countries, UNISDR and local governments in Japan will co-host the High School Student Summit on the World Tsunami Awareness Day this month in Japan, inviting high school students from all over the world. 6 high school students and supervising teacher will also participate from government Model Senior Secondary School in Port Blair, Andaman Nicobar Islands, India. In the summit, we expect that young people will sincerely look into the threat of natural disasters and share the knowledge of disaster prevention through fieldworks and exchange of views. We also expect that they adopt a declaration summarizing their discussions and findings. We'll continue to implement public awareness events relating to World Tsunami Awareness Day around the world. We hope your countries will join us. Japan is committed to the development and strengthening of tsunami early warning systems, as well as development human resources through training programs of tsunami risk reduction. Japan is quite aware of the vulnerability, particular to Asian region, and has been providing technical and financial assistance in the Asian regions to help strengthen their disaster preparedness. Toward the mainstreaming of the disaster risk reduction, we should unite and maintain our efforts and activities. We should never allow the loss of precious lives in natural disasters, including earthquakes and tsunamis. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Excellency. And of course, Japan, heard earlier, is extremely exposed to these hazards and has made enormous progress. I visited Sendai on the anniversary of the Great Eastern Japan earthquake and tsunami. It was absolutely astounding, the changes and the Build Back Better principles, both hard infrastructure as well as the soft education and training. Can I just ask if you can say a bit more about Japan's global initiatives to support reduction of disaster risk linked to tsunami?
Thank you, Robert. When this tsunami happened 5 years ago, this was something unprecedented, something unexpected, something unimaginable. But we have another lesson that always something unexpected will happen. So we have to be prepared all sorts of natural disasters, including tsunami and earthquake. So that's why I like to let people know about lessons we learned and the importance of early warning system. We have been establishing, especially Asian Pacific Rim, to have a coordinated system for the early warning system. We are supporting Asian countries or ASEAN countries the necessity of establishing better early warning system. At the same time, education is very important. As I said, traditional knowledge helped a lot for saving a life. So I'd like to let many stories about tsunami incident, what happened many years, many centuries ago to local people in Asian and global people. And also important of infrastructure development for disaster preparedness. So we are supporting infrastructure development efforts by many countries through ODA and financial support. So Japan is maybe unfortunately leading country for tsunami preparedness efforts. So Japan is ready to support all kind of efforts taken by countries like India and in this region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now would like to take a short pause, not to leave or stop the program, but I recognize that the woman who asked the question a moment ago was not asking a question for the panel. She was pointing out that she couldn't understand the conversation because the conversation is in English. So I apologize for misinterpreting it was a point of order rather than a question you were raising. So His Excellency Minister Juju has agreed to provide some further clarification in Hindi. So thank you very much for your patience. Excellent.
Thank you. You just have to bear some extra minutes of this session. क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ में काफ़ी हिंदुस्तान के अलग अलग प्रांत से आए हुए काफ़ी हमारा प्रतिनिधि हैं, इसमें मेयर हैं, काफ़ी बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण ओहदे में रहने वाले सब आए हैं. वो भाषा का कुछ समस्या है तो मैं 1-2 मिनट में कुछ इसको परिभाषा करता हूँ. जो मैंने कहा तो हिंदुस्तान का पक्ष को मैंने रखा है और हमने ये बताया कि 2004 में जब हिंदुस्तान में सुनामी आए थे तो कितने हज़ारों की तादाद में लोगों का जाने चले गए और उसके बाद हमने क्या क्या किया, क्योंकि हिंदुस्तान के लिए नया था. हमारे यहाँ सुनामी का कभी इतिहास रहा नहीं, तो हिंदुस्तान में हमने एक नया जो काम शुरू किया 2000 के बाद, उसको मैंने यहाँ जिक्र किया और सबको बताया कि हिंदुस्तान कैसे उभर के आ रहा है इस चीज़ को संभालने में। सुनामी है, ये जापानी शब्द है। हमारे जापान के जो महामहिम राजदूत ने जो शेयर किया है, उन्होंने इस चीज़ को कहा क्योंकि जापान ही सबसे ज़्यादा प्रभावित देश रहा है सुनामी के लिए, और उन्होंने बढ़ चढ़ के इस कार्यक्रम को आगे बढ़ाया और पैसे के लिहाज से और बाकी तकनीकी और अलग अलग उनके जो भी उनके क्षमताएं हैं वो बाकी दुनिया के बाकी देशों के साथ वो शेयर करते हैं और अपना जो एक्सपर्ट्स है हम लोगों को देते हैं। तो उन्होंने ये कहा कि बच्चों को खास करके उसको इस बारे में ज्ञान होना ज़रूरी है। जो पारंपरिक ज्ञान है उनका जापान का, उसको वो बच्चों के साथ, कॉलेज और स्कूल के बच्चों के साथ भी शेयर करने के लिए जो भी कार्यक्रम का आवश्यकता होगा वो जापान और उनके सरकार और हमारा जो संयुक्त राष्ट्र है, जो उनके प्रतिनिधि यहाँ से बैठे हैं, रॉबर्ट ग्लासर, उनके ऑफिस के माध्यम से कंडक्ट करेंगे और हिंदुस्तान के साथ वो बढ़ चढ़ करके इसमें हिस्सा लेने का उन्होंने इस बात को इजहार किया है। तो बहुत सारा आज जो मामले, बहुत सारे बातें बताए हैं, लेकिन मैं पूरा बताने का समय नहीं मिलेगा। लेकिन आज जो है वो पहले बार विश्व ने ये मिलकर के तय किया कि आज के दिन जो है ये सुनामी का जानकारी का जो दिवस आज मनाया जा रहा है, ताकि पता चले कि सुनामी एक ऐसी चीज़ है, जब ये तबाही आता है तो लाखों के संख्या में, चाहे वो जान हो या चाहे वो घर हो, चाहे खेत हो, ज़मीन हो, सारे के सारे तबाही हो जाते हैं। इसलिए ये ज़रूरी समझा और विश्व के सब देशों ने मिलकर के ये फैसला किया कि आज के दिन जो है हम लोग इसको वर्ल्ड सुनामी अवेयरनेस डे के नाम से मनाया जाएगा, ये फैसला किया है। और बाद में आप लोगों को जानकारी और चाहिए तो फिर हम उसको जानकारी ले सकते हैं और हमारे जो वरिष्ठ अधिकारी एनडीएमए के, गृह मंत्रालय के लोग बैठे हैं, उनके थ्रू से भी आप जानकारी प्राप्त कर सकते हैं। धन्यवाद। प्लीज।
Thank you very much, Excellency. This situation actually highlights a very interesting point, because if local communities are at the front line in responding to disaster risk, and international communities want to support those local efforts, we have to be able to communicate and be understood. So thank you for raising that point and alerting us to that. Next, I would like to invite Regina Edwina Prosper to share her observations on the question we've posed to the panelists. Ms. Prosper, you have the floor.
Thank you. Honorable Minister of State for Home Affairs and DRR, Mr. Kiren Rijiju, His Excellency Ambassador Mr. Hiramatsu, distinguished panelists and officials, delegates, fellow participants, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of women and youth, and coming from a small island developing state, I am honored to have this opportunity to share my thoughts on the subject of tsunami. Perhaps I will be going in a general view on it. First, I would like to ask some questions. Ladies and gentlemen, do we have time? When will the next tsunami be? Where will it hit? Do we have the power to stop it? No, we do not have time. No, no one knows for sure, as we cannot control nature, when and where a tsunami will hit. And no, we do not have the power to stop it. But can we still do something about it? Yes, and we should. First, I humbly urge the world to stop seeing tsunami as a far-off thing, and it's something of a distant future. And please, to stop seeing it as only affecting a certain country. Time has changed, and the globe is different. We need to put our minds together and effort in order to protect and save lives. Constantly mindful that anytime, anywhere, a tsunami can be generated, and its impact can be disastrous. I would also urge countries, please, those that have the experts on the subject, to please continue to share your knowledge and experience with others. And I thank those that are already doing it. Strengthening cooperative ties with other countries and learning new ideas or lessons with each other will help further everyone's progress. After all, when a tsunami hits, it does not choose which shore to hit and can affect a number of countries in one go. No matter our strength today, we will always need help from one another when the time comes. We are a global family, and time is getting crucial. And it's getting crucial that the world takes action fast, but as a team, in order to protect the human race. A set of actions needs to be taken seriously by each and every governmental power in every country. We need to set early warning systems in place, have standard operating procedures that everyone can follow, do risk inundation mappings, have continuous trainings, put clear evacuation plans in place, and of course the signs, hold simulation exercises frequently, have disaster risk reduction development along your shores, and put these evacuation plans in place for each and every district or region. And if done collectively, collaborating together nationally and internationally, all will be at a lower cost and in a shorter time. And please do remember, it is important to bring this to the grassroots level. Everyone from every corner should know what a tsunami is, what is in place in their country also, and what to do if faced with the imminent threat, and how the establishment of recovery and reconstruction after an impact will take place. In this way, people will help you to help them. So we need to push through for education awareness on the subject of tsunami. Having communities working together with government institutions, NGOs, along with private and international organizations. This needs to be increased and coordinated. Families, a school teacher, a fisherman, a child, you and me, we can work together against tsunami. Humanity should never forget what a tsunami can do. And it is imperative that we never stop making efforts to prepare and pass this awareness and knowledge down for generations to come. This is the way forward. I thank you. Namaste.
Thank you very much for those inspiring comments. I wonder, Ms. Prosper, if you could say a few words about how the Seychelles can improve tsunami early warning in terms of your own country and preparedness. I know there are many challenges, but maybe if you could highlight a few, that would be great. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. From the lessons learned of the IOF 16 exercise recently, we know we have a very strong standard operating procedure of flowing timelines from tsunami service providers, our National Tsunami Warning Center, and the Disaster Management Office down through the districts. But one thing we've realized, we need to have a team of people that understands the procedures and how things should work. We are now having focal persons, but we need to have a team. And perhaps IOC, UNESCO, UNISDR can make sure that countries don't just appoint one or two people, but make sure there's a pool of people that knows and understands. So no matter who is there, it will all flow and connect together. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments. I'd now like to invite Mr. Vladimir Ryabinin to respond to the main theme of our discussion for the panel. So you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Glasser, Your Excellencies, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen. It was long ago. It was in 1965 that the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO, or simply IOC, started to build and coordinate activities of the first tsunami warning system in the Pacific Ocean. This was and still is an extremely useful system, but it works mostly for the Pacific and its vicinity. The repeated IOC calls about the need of similar warning systems in other tsunami-prone regions of the world ocean have not been heard until the catastrophic Indian Ocean tsunami on the 26th December 2004. It was indeed a true wake-up call and a very tragic lesson for all. Since the early 2005, IOC has led the coordination and extension of tsunami service to 3 more ocean basins: the Indian Ocean, the Caribbean Sea, the Northeastern Atlantic, Mediterranean, and connected seas. As the Executive Secretary of IOC, I am proud to report considerable progress in all these regions. The 3 new regional tsunami warning systems have been established and are now fully operational. 7 new tsunami service providers were established, 3 in the Indian Ocean and 4 in the Northeastern Atlantic and Mediterranean region. Coordination, harmonization, capacity development, training, equipment provision will all be at the forefront of activities. IOC has reinforced and sustained the related intergovernmental process. It has been a huge work. Since 2005, we have conducted 55 intergovernmental meetings, 115 technical working group sessions and workshops on tsunami hazard assessment, standard operating procedures, coastal inundation modeling, and since 2005, IOC has organized 17 tsunami wave exercises in the 4 ocean bases. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to emphasize that despite it is the IOC that provides the overall intergovernmental and technical coordination of the whole tsunami warning system, it is impossible for us to make the system function without very considerable national investments. These investments amount to hundreds of millions of US dollars. But IOC, working within United Nations, created awareness and raised it very significantly about the risk of tsunami. We advocated the need for these investments, and I warmly thank governments for this significant contribution and to safety actually of your own people on the ocean coasts. The World Tsunami Awareness Day that we celebrate today for the first time is highlighted in a special message from the UNESCO Director General Irina Bokova, a message to UNESCO Associated Schools Project Network, which has roughly 10,000 schools around the world. As regards to IOC, we will continue our work to keep the world coasts a safer place. In all 4 regional IOC systems, there is an increasing recognition of the importance of awareness and response activities involving public education, emergency planning, and adequate response. This involves such things as hazard assessment, inundation mapping, again, standard operating procedures, and Regina was speaking about this. This is also concerns in evacuation planning, training, and tsunami warning system exercises. Concluding, a very efficient and technically advanced tsunami warning system has been put in place by the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO in all tsunami-prone regions of the world. But this system needs to be maintained and sustained into the future. Relevant linkages of tsunami warning systems to multi-hazard early warning systems need to be established or strengthened under the framework of the Sendai Disaster Risk Reduction Agreement. Commitment of governments to keep the IOC tsunami system running is an absolute must. We cannot avoid future tsunamis, but we can, and it is our really duty to reduce to the minimum the associated loss of people's lives. Excuse me. Thank you for this, for listening, but I would like even more to thank you for keeping the tsunami warning system running into the future. Please do not reduce the effort that we all invested into this system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ryabinin. Maybe just one question. You highlighted the need for investment and continued investment and the importance of linking the tsunami warning to multi-hazard risk and as called for in the Sendai framework. But I wonder if you can share with us what you think could be further done to improve tsunami early warning. In particular, are there gaps that you would highlight that we should be filling as a matter of priority? Thank you.
You know, I'd like to thank you very much for this question. I would like to re-emphasize that it is important to develop the system and keep it running. To keep the system running is not very easy because tsunami are infrequent, and this human nature to forget about the disaster and the losses and the suffering of people. So we'd like to be happy, but you know, in principle, we have to remember that this may happen again. So again and again, keeping the awareness is the most important thing. But indeed, the system is not perfect technically, and now in the science there are very significant advances that can help to develop the system technically further. We need to keep the observation system running. We probably will be able to reduce the number of false alarms by combination of satellite measurements and also in situ measurements. It is possible to reduce the time of the warning. So this requires scientific development, technological developments, and you know, we have a system in place that really looks after this. The vandalism is very important because buoys are getting basically stolen and destroyed. So people are destroying their own safety. So this also needs to be taken into account. So what is really important that the system is not only technically developed, and you know, we really need to recognize the level of that development, but the last mile. There has been already a number of presentations saying the importance of information getting through the last mile to people, and then people need to know what to do. This requires, once again, exercises, creating awareness and education. And there are many examples, like even when the school kids saved a large number of lives because they knew what needs to be done. So we will continue our effort to develop this system. But once again, I actually plead to ministers and governments to keep the system running. This requires investments, and I hope this Awareness Day will also help to maintain it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those comments. And now I would like to invite Dr. Laura S.L. Kong for her observations. Dr. Kong, you have the floor.
Thank you. I have the honor of being last, and hopefully I don't want to repeat all the good information that everyone has already conveyed, and perhaps I can offer a few more.
Where is the sound coming from?
So wait. Mr. Glasser, Minister, Ambassador, Ms. Proper, Mr. Ryabinin, delegates and participants, thank you for inviting me to share my lessons learned and recommendations for reducing risk and ensuring preparedness on this occasion of the first World Tsunami Awareness Day. First, I would like to summarize a few facts: the what, the when, the where, and how for tsunamis. Since 1975, there have been 43 deadly tsunamis, nearly 70% in the Pacific and its marginal seas. And over history, some 3,000 years, there have been 1,200 confirmed tsunamis, of which 249 have been deadly. Again, more than 3/4 in the Pacific, and nearly 90% generated by earthquakes. I think you all know that a tsunami is a series of waves. They're dangerous potentially for many hours, and the first wave may not be the largest. And they're especially dangerous in harbors and ports, where you can create seiches, where you can create very strong currents so that our economic viability through ships and for tourism is affected very much. So I think you know that tsunamis are blind to politics, they're blind to borders, they cause havoc locally within minutes, and they also cross ocean basins, and they can reach upwards of 40 meters in height and certainly kilometers inland. The theme of this World Tsunami Awareness Day is to promote effective education and evacuation drills. So now I'd like to describe a few good practices, and especially perhaps in other oceans. So as many of you know, Japan is no stranger to natural hazards. It has typhoons, earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, as nearly common day, everyday occurrences. Japan is home to 20% of the world's earthquakes that are greater than magnitude 5. And over history, or over the last 1,200 years, nearly 400 earthquakes, and of which 142 have caused over 400,000 deaths. They're also the source of more than 40% of the Pacific's deadly tsunamis. And if you look at the top 10 most deadly tsunamis in history, 7 were in Japan, 2 in Indonesia, and the last actually was in 1755 off of Lisbon and affected the Mediterranean. So learning and building back each time, Japan is arguably now the most prepared and ready nation in the world. But I'd like to take you back to September 1st of 1923, and for them, a massive 7.9 magnitude earthquake hit Tokyo and Yokohama and surrounding areas, and the waves reached 13 meters minutes later, and the city was reduced to ruins, mostly from the firestorms that happened afterwards. Death toll was 140,000. But to commemorate and remember the past and be prepared for the future, now September 1 has been established as the Disaster Prevention Day in order to reduce that death toll from disasters. And on this day since then, nationwide drills have been conducted. In 2014, 2.35 million people participated. In 2015, 1.6 million people. In Tokyo, which is estimated to have a 70% chance of an earthquake that will directly hit Tokyo in the next 30 years, the metropolitan government prepared and distributed a tsunami comic, a manga, describing what it would be like just before and after a major earthquake. And they advised everyone to imagine themselves in this situation and to take that action now to be prepared. Same time, a 300-page disaster preparedness Tokyo guide was also done in English. So, as nearly 90% of all damaging deadly tsunamis have been caused by earthquakes, if we invest in earthquake preparedness and awareness, we are also building tsunami awareness. So after we drop, cover, and hold till the earthquake shaking stops, we should know that a tsunami may be coming and we need to evacuate immediately. So while one could say, arguably, that Japan's wealth has enabled it to always build back stronger, to construct strong earthquake and now tsunami-resistant buildings, to operate earthquake early warning systems that stop bullet trains and close water gates, and that build coastal embankments and safe shelters from hazard mapping and evacuation planning. In many ways, that same resiliency, especially at the community level, has been exemplified in many other tsunami-devastated countries. In the Pacific, the next most Tsunami vulnerable places are South America, Indonesia, on the Pacific side, and the South Pacific Islands. So just a few examples. In 1998, in Papua New Guinea, more than 2,200 people lost their lives in a local tsunami, a landslide-generated tsunami, in a very remote area. After that, the whole idea of natural tsunami warnings put out a nice poster by the Asian Disaster Reduction Center of essentially, if you see, if you hear those natural tsunami warning signs, run. A video was done after 1998 by a Catholic organization, and that video was then shared around the Pacific and especially in Vanuatu on an island called Pentecost Island, and in 1999 that video had been shown so that when a tsunami or an earthquake did hit, people knew to run, nobody died. In 2006, as Vladimir mentioned, the first international tsunami exercises were done in the Pacific, and they've been since followed up in the Indian Ocean, the Caribbean, and in the Mediterranean and North Atlantic. The idea here is, are we ready? Is each country ready, not only as a national organization, but at the community level? Are we ready to respond? Are we ready for the next tsunami? In 2007, in Samoa, they did a national drill. In many ways, a wake-up call from 2004. And that drill, in which they organized and developed evacuation maps and conducted a drill in Apia. 2 years later, a tsunami hit them. It was a local tsunami. It was in September 29th. That tsunami hit them in 15 minutes. They lost 149 lives, but it could have been much worse if they had not prepared, if they had not thought about putting in evacuation maps, thinking about early warning systems, and certainly increasing the awareness and preparedness of their communities. So again, drills not only increase the readiness of our tsunami warning agencies, many of them Met services and disaster management offices, but they have also built awareness in communities and schools. In 2010, a very large tsunami in Chile, many had remembered the magnitude 9.5 earthquake in 1960, which started the Pacific system, and they'd shared their wisdom with their children. And many had remembered the small tsunamis in 2007, so that when it did occur in 2010, a magnitude 8.8, it only killed 156 people. In 2015, they had a magnitude 8.3 earthquake, and national warnings were issued, and more than 1 million persons were evacuated. If it had not been for the many reminders that education and preparedness, including drills, so everyone was aware and informed and knew what to do, more people would have lost their lives. So drills are not enough if they are not accompanied by education. Education of school children is clearly an investment in the future, and it can pay dividends immediately too. Many of you recall the story of Tilly Smith, who while on vacation in Thailand on Boxing Day, remembered those lessons taught by her teacher and helped to evacuate not only her parents and family, but those around her, saving lives. And we know the miracle in Kamaishi in 2011, where thanks to the prevention and preparedness training, teaching in school children, they led that evacuation, along with other community members, to safety. But one of the biggest gaps I think we need to fill is that disaster preparedness needs to be embedded in the teaching curriculum. With so many basic requirements, we're told teachers cannot find time in their school days. that needs to change. Just referring to Tuesday's pre-conference special session for the World Tsunami Awareness Day, we heard many examples on how evacuation drills and operating procedures, along with preparedness and education, are critical for reducing mortality. India and the Seychelles shared experiences in building early warning systems nationally, and the IOC in developing ocean basin regions globally. And we heard from the Vice Mayor of Sendai as well.
Dr. Kong,
Yes.
I'm just conscious of the time, so
Okay,
we want to leave
thank
a
you.
lot of time for answers. So,
So-
if you wouldn't mind, thank you.
What do we do? Clearly, we want an effective system, and I would like to offer and recommend a best practice that's being advocated in the Caribbean. Through that IOC process, they've endorsed an international tsunami ready program. It's implemented nationally, tied regionally to standards, and currently it's being implemented in 3 countries and 51 communities, and 2 countries are pursuing programs in the Pacific, 4 countries. So what is that? It's modeled after a U.S. Tsunami Ready program, and it's recognizing that communities must take on important activities in mitigation, preparedness, and response. Having an evacuation map, having awareness materials, conducting outreach, having 24/7 warning centers, and having response plans and exercise. If we can enhance community tsunami preparedness with better planning and warning, we can save lives. So this is both a national program as well as regionally through platforms like the IOTWMS, and globally we'd like to propose that it can be a common standard and a strategy and framework that can be used for the global indicator for preparedness.
Thank you, Dr. Kong.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. And I apologize for interrupting you, but as we have some speakers who don't follow in English, I wanted to have an opportunity for His Excellency the Minister Rijuju to provide some further translation of some of our proceedings. So I apologize for interrupting a bit. Thank you for your understanding, Excellency.
I'm happy for this additional job. ये जो well, not say maybe in 1.5 minutes, हमारे तीनों जो हमारे सेशेल्स देश से जो आए हैं और यूनेस्को के व्लादिमीर रैबिन ने जो कहा है और मिसेस लौरा कॉन्ग अमेरिका के उन्होंने जो अपना एक्सपीरियंस शेयर किया है, मैं उसको 1 और आधा मिनट में समाप्त कर दूंगा। जो सेशेल्स देश है ये इंडियन ओशन का एक छोटा सा देश है, वो टापू है, द्वीप है, छोटा देश है और महत्वपूर्ण देश है। भारत के साथ भी बहुत अच्छा संबंध है और अच्छा हमारे साथ उनका समझौता हुआ है। वहाँ उनका कहना है कि ऐसा मत समझे कि ये जो सागर के बीच में जो रहते हैं या जो सागर तट में जो रहते हैं उसी के लिए सुनामी है, बाकी जो अंदर में रहते हैं उनके लिए कोई प्रभाव नहीं होगा, ऐसा नहीं समझना चाहिए। क्योंकि जहाँ सुनामी हिट नहीं करता है उसको भी सुनामी हुआ। जैसे हिंदुस्तान में कभी भी सुनामी का बारे में हमने सुना नहीं है, हमको इसका प्रभाव नहीं हुआ, लेकिन 2004 में 10,000 से भी ज़्यादा हमारे लोग मारे गए। तो इस तरह का घटना जो है, जैसे कि परिवर्तन हो रहा है पूरा हमारे विश्व भर में, जो क्लाइमेट चेंज का हम लोग बात करते हैं, तो इसकी वजह से इसका प्रभाव हर जगह हो रहा है। तो इसके लिए सबको सतर्क रहना चाहिए। और उन्होंने ये अपील किया कि जो बड़े देश हैं जैसे जो जापान है और हिंदुस्तान भी अभी उभर के आए हैं, अमेरिका है, बड़ा बड़ा देश है, उसको और सामने आ करके मजबूत से काम करना चाहिए, उन्होंने ये अपील किया है। और जो गैर सरकारी संस्थाएं हैं उनके साथ सरकारी जो जितना भी हमारे एजेंसीज है मिल करके काम करने के लिए उन्होंने ये अपील किया है। हमारे यूनेस्को के व्लादिमीर रायबिन ने ये कहा कि जो संस्थाएं को भी मजबूत रखना है और साथ साथ में उसको चुरुस दुरुस्त बनाए रखना चाहिए। उसके लिए जितना पैसे की लागत होगा, आर्थिक व्यवस्था करना होगा, बिल्कुल हर देश को करना चाहिए। क्योंकि प्राकृतिक आपदा जब आता है तो उसका तबाही को आप कोई हिसाब नहीं लगा सकता है, इसलिए उसको बचाने के लिए जितना भी लागत आप लगा सकता है लगाना चाहिए। हर देश को इस मामले में बढ़ चढ़ के आगे आना चाहिए, उन्होंने ये कहा है। और तकनीकी जो व्यवस्था है वो पूरा होना चाहिए। बिना तकनीक के साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी जो हम कहते हैं, विज्ञान के इसमें आवश्यकता ज़रूरत पड़ेगा, तो इसके लिए हम लोगों को काफ़ी मात्रा में आगे उभर के काम करना पड़ेगा। अमेरिका से जो आए हैं मिसेस लौरा कॉन्ग, काफ़ी एक्सपर्ट्स हैं। उन्होंने पिछली 2 सदियों में जो जो घटनाएं घटी हैं उनको उसने जिक्र किया है, और किस में कितने लोग मरे, कितने संख्या में प्रभावित हुआ है, उसके बारे में उन्होंने जिक्र किया है। और भविष्य में क्या हो सकता है इसका संभावना, इसको भी उन्होंने एक जो दृश्य दिखाया है कि कितना भयभीत, कितना खतरनाक हमारे लिए ये बन सकता है अगर हम तैयार नहीं रहा। तो इसलिए उन्होंने ये बात भी कहा है कि कोई भी जैसे विकास का काम करता है, कोई आप ब्रिज बनाता है, कोई रेल लाइन बनाता है, कोई हवाई जहाज का अड्डा बनाता है, तो उसको इस सोच के साथ बनाना चाहिए कि अगर तबाही आता है, सुनामी आता है, तो किस तरह से बचाया जा सकता है। तो विकास का कोई भी कार्य है वो ये हमारे मन में ये रहे कि ये विकास का कार्य तभी ये ठीक रहेगा जब ये कोई भूकंप आए, कोई सुनामी आए तो ये बच सके। चाहे हमारे लिए ब्रिज हो, चाहे रास्ता हो, चाहे कोई भी हो, हवाई का पट्टी हो, तो कोई भी काम हमारा इस चीज़ को ध्यान रखना ज़रूरी है कि कोई भी प्राकृतिक आपदा भविष्य में आएगा तो उसको वो रोक सके, उसमें झेल सके। इस चीज़ को उन्होंने मान्यता देने का बात कही है। मैं संक्षेप में आपको ये बात बताने का मुझे रॉबर्ट ग्रेसन ने यहाँ मुझे ये अवसर प्रदान किया। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। थैंक यू।
Thank you very much, and again, thank you also, Dr. Kong. I think your point about the multiple waves, 40 meters in height and kilometers in length, is really, I know many in this room appreciate that, but if you just picture that and what that means for so many coastal communities potentially, it is just awesomely impressive and worrying. We'd like to now take a moment to invite some comments, questions from the audience. Unfortunately, because of our time constraints, I think we can only take 4 questions, and then we'll just go through each of the panelists to see if they would like to comment on any one or all of the 4 questions. So let's see if we can find a woman. Yes, in the back.
Yeah.
Yes, the woman in the back. You have the floor. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Good morning. I am Mayor Madeleine Alfalor-Guzman of Iriga City. That's in Camarines Sur, southern Luzon of the Philippines. Actually, I would like first to congratulate all the organizers and the people behind the scene, and especially Sir Glasser for your commitment and passion, and all the speakers, and especially Minister Rijiju. I would like to congratulate you also, and we admire your sincerity and your humility. You know, if you will run for office and I can vote, you will definitely have my vote. Also, I would like to congratulate all the participants because we traveled all the way here, woke up early, just to be here because for the cause. Perhaps we can find solutions and initiatives how to deal with disasters, and also to find refuge because we all have experience, a first-hand experience of disaster. Almost all in this past few days, almost all shares their views and ideas. And I guess when we go home to our respective countries, it is about time for us to walk the talk and also to re-echo what we have learned here. So that's why when we go home, we will be organizing about 100 mayors in our region, in Region 5, to re-echo and to start educate and perhaps share with them what we have learned here. And because the mayors are the frontliners and they are the actors. And I also believe that the solution, one of the solutions to combat our predicaments with disaster is education. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There was another question in the back. Yes.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to share a personal reflection on the occasion of the World Tsunami Awareness Day. As a child, I grew up with a lot of anecdotes that when gods are angry, they tend to give you a lot of these natural disasters. And my grandmother used to tell me, you really have to invoke a lot of Vedic injunctions to be able to propitiate the gods and to be able to prevent the disasters from happening. So a personal reflection on those anecdotes have stayed with me, and I'd like to state that there is a strong role for the power of anecdotes, the role of traditions and indigenous knowledge preservation to be able to prevent some of these natural disasters from happening, and more importantly, the role of faith organizations in spreading the awareness about World Tsunami, not just World Tsunami awareness, but a lot more other awareness related to other natural hazards that are likely to hit the world population. So thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to share some of those personal reflections. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sir, we will wait for tsunami only after.
Please raise your hand rather than speaking, and I will call on people who raise their hands, but without speaking out. Yes, this young man.
Sir, we will survive climate change, then only we'll face tsunami. It took nature 1 million years to raise CO2 level in atmosphere to 200 ppm, 200 part per million. Human being, within 100 years, we have raised to 420 ppm. At that high CO2 level, whatever crop will go will have no nutrition. We are closing our eyes to the climate change which has happened first time in human history. The snow in Siberia has melted. Underneath is vegetation which is emitting methane, which has a global warming potential of 25 as against 1 of CO2. Earth temperature will rise by 8 degrees. We will survive from climate change, then we will welcome tsunami, not before. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Arguably, reducing greenhouse gases as quickly as possible is one of the single most important disaster risk treatments. So thank you for your comment. Now
we have exploded atom bomb on this earth, which has caused climate change. We are closing our eyes. North Korea is still exploding atom bomb. When will we learn? It will be too late. We should hang together or will be hanged separately.
Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you for the panel and good morning to everyone. Myself Gautam from Pondicherry University. I am a student of disaster management. My point is like tsunami is not generated only by the nature. It is also generated by the human made. Okay, the artificial vibrations created in the ocean, and that will be the causes that will cause the tsunami. So my request to the UNISDR to take important measures regarding the human vibrations in the oceans which causes the tsunamis. So we know that some countries are using the nuclear bombs exploded in the oceans. They are generating the artificial tsunamis. It will affect the near small islands and it will cause impact on the humans. And if this happen in any small islands, we can't estimate the loss of lives. So I want in with one slogan: the disasters which we can prevent them. Which we can't, we mitigate them. Thank you. Save the nature. Respect the environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have to stop there and invite our panelists. So there were quite different and interesting questions raised.
I'm very sorry, sir, but
one of them is.
Excuse me, sir. I'm very sorry to be interrupting, but this is a very important thing. I really want to. I'm the youngest, and please give me this opportunity. Please, I just need 30 seconds. Just 30 seconds, please. Please, sir. My name is Digant Chaudhary, and I'm a student of sustainability management. The question is not only about knowledge and awareness. It is not sufficient for a disaster. I believe everyone present here today will agree on the fact that there are several tribal communities who believe that God will never do wrong to them, and whatever may come, they shall not deviate from their ancient way of life. I suggest a platform to be put up to address such behavioral patterns to those communities. We belong to the same world, and when disaster hits, it hits us together. There's no public, there's no private in disaster. It is my humble request to rescue such tribal communities from their belief. And thank you, and I'm really very sorry.
Thank you. Colleagues, we should respect our panelists and give them an opportunity to respond. So please, with your permission, no further questions, uncalled, unacknowledged questions from the audience. I know it's difficult because everyone feels so passionate about these challenges. So with your permission, I will now invite our panelists, starting with Vladimir Ryabanin to comment, if he has comments, and we'll go just across to the left. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. And I would like to recognize all the statements, and they really express concern about not only tsunamis, but all the situation in the world, which also is characterized by well, the new reality, and this new reality is now called the new geological epoch of Anthropocene, when we started to affect the future of this planet very strongly. This requires complex responses, and also this requires new values, particularly in young people. The values that are related not kind of to explicit addressed to disasters, but the values of sharing, the values of consuming less. And this is really important, and India actually is very good at this, because your culture really supports that notion. So we will be addressing these things technically through the Sustainable Development Goals, and that provide really the framework for addressing a lot of issues related, like poverty, like hunger, like energy, like ocean, and with that, with your support in population, I think we will be able to at least reduce the number of disasters. Thank you very much.
Excellency.
Thank you very much for all your comments. First of all, I'd like to ask you to visit Japan, to see the devastated areas. Seeing is believing, and you know the image, power image is very important. You see that how Japan is now building back to the more resilient society, community. So I really hope that you have a chance to visit Tohoku area, how the devastation of tsunami is, so you can believe how you should be better prepared for your local and communities. Second thing is the importance of education for younger generations. Younger generations are people to bear the future of your country. So I hope that education for younger generation, making use of some anecdotes I mentioned, is very, very useful. That's why we are inviting younger generation students to Japan to see in person the devastation tsunami, how Japan is doing to be better prepared for the future. And also the cities, communities should be more resilient. Japan stands ready to support, for example, smart city initiatives in these countries to make our cities, communities, towns more resilient. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. Excellency Minister Rijuju.
You have the floor. Thank you. I have already intervened enough. Some of the questions from our youngsters were quite encouraging, and that is how we look at things, where the young generations are coming forward in large numbers. In India, we have started various courses in universities. We have started PhD, MPhil degrees. We will be starting master's degrees. So it's very encouraging to see you are coming forward, and that is how we will build ourselves stronger to deal with any disaster. Regarding the local leadership role, of course, as I had mentioned in one of the sessions yesterday, that the pre-conference meeting of the local leadership, which was launched for the Asia region, was one of the prime example how we want to develop local leadership at the ground level. Without that being done, the entire framework which has been adopted as a Sendai framework will never be fulfilled. And the panchayats in India, we have panchayat raj system, the grassroots democracy, that's called local government. And in the towns we have mayors. So mayors, these municipal councils and panchayats, these are very key important part of our local leadership structure. So same is, I'm sure, in most of the countries. You have a local structure in the local level for local governance. So that is where we look forward to strengthen And in our institutional mechanism also, we have emphasized lots of importance on the district management, disaster management authority, which is headed by the magistrate of that particular district. So that is how we would like to focus on. And of course, on the climate change aspect, what we are understanding is definitely a large issue, and which needs a separate deliberation for that. And definitely, I always believe in having a very, very balanced world where we respect the nature. Definitely, the irresponsible human behavior aggravates the disaster more, whether it's you call it vibration in the ocean or in the deforestation or pollution, whatever you call it. It's a human responsible, always partly responsible. So we have to be very, very careful that we don't add miseries to the world by our own irresponsible behavior. And some of the small islands, I really feel when I had gone to Andaman Nicobar Islands in Bay of Bengal as one of our union territories, there is a danger of sweeping out, finishing the entire existence of the island with a single stroke of tsunami. And some of the countries, Seychelles, in Maldives, many countries in South Pacific region, which really face the danger of elimination from the world itself. That is why this early warning system, the technology interventions, Japan taking a big lead role, these are very important. And I really feel that this Asian Ministerial Conference coming together with the inputs which you have come forward in form of your suggestions will be very important. And today we are going to have our declaration. So I'm sure you'll be satisfied with all the points which we are going to integrate in that political declaration. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Excellency.
Thank you very much for the recommendations and questions and points. Now, I'm very happy to hear of the actions of the mayor and for sharing and doing the activity. And this is how we need to actually be taking it up. And thank you for the recognition of indigenous knowledge, which is very important. And perhaps initiate the recording process, start a group and get together with organizations, and then you can also share that indigenous knowledge after you've recorded it. And for the youths, maybe creating Facebook groups or WhatsApp groups that you can initiate conversations about all these issues and concerns that you have, and from there create the groups that will go on the field and have actions, but in relation with working together with organizations and government institutions so that it is all well coordinated and we don't have doubling of efforts. Also, maybe integrating the RR and climate change activities and issues, it's one thing we need to look towards and work together to do. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Kong.
I think I want to just make one strong point, and echo, yes, the importance of very customized local indigenous knowledge is essential if we're going to be able to create tsunami champions. I think if you don't know already, almost 90% of the casualties over history are from local events, from local tsunamis, where the emphasis is on awareness and preparedness, but very much so what the community can do and empower themselves and motivate themselves to take action at the local level. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kong. Now, Excellencies, colleagues, and with the Excellency Minister Rijuju's permission, I would like to propose, before we thank our panelists and acknowledge your contributions, tsunamis cause enormous loss of life if you look back over the past many decades. And as this is the first Tsunami Awareness Day, I would like to ask that you rise and observe a moment of silence in recognition of the tens of thousands of lives that have been lost, and in recognition of the communities around the world who are fighting day to day to reduce tsunami risk. Thank you very much. And now, to finish our proceedings, would you please join me, first of all, in thanking our distinguished panelists for their great contributions. And secondly, would you please applaud each other for your contributions and our apologies for not answering all the questions. This first session of the world's first Tsunami Awareness Day commemoration is concluded. Thank you very much.
Next, what is the timing you announced next?
Thank you very much, esteemed dignitaries, for very significant contributions to this panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, we will just require a few moments now to reset the days and soon resume the session where outcome documents will be adopted. So I'd request you to kindly be with us. We will only take a couple of minutes to reset the days and immediately after that resume with the outcome document session very, very shortly.